All right.
2 meetings in a row. I almost forgot to record. So here we are, Life Cycle Insights on our Friday workshop, hanging out with our friends from Sherweb. So Nick, I'm going to let you kind of take it away and we can talk about navigating NCE.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it. So yes, I am joined today by Alex and Mike. So Mike and I travel quite a bit, so you'll see us on the road. Anybody, I recognized a few faces here, but for those that are going to be on the road at different events, you might bump into us. We talk about incentives a lot. We talk about NCE a lot. Alex figured it out. So Alex LaFlamme, who's on the call, is the one who does the research.
I didn't figure it out.
But what I like to say is Microsoft threw the book at us and we decided to read it, which when I say we, I should say Alex. But, ultimately, there's been a lot that's happened over the past really 2 years in terms of NCE, getting ready for NCE, implementing NCE, and then on the back end, outside of MCE, creating a whole new incentives program, and that incentives program changing something that's been in place for so more years than I can count. So ultimately, there's a lot to cover. We can go a few different ways with this. So yes, we do have slides. We have content that we'll be able to share afterwards. More importantly than that as well, Alex actually has access to a partner center where we can dive in and live take a look at some stuff. And before we start, something that we always offer, and this is a no strings attached offer. Everything that we share here on this call is going to be relevant to whoever you're with, whether you're with Sherweb, whether you're with PAX, Tech, Microsoft Direct, Ingram, whoever. This is all going to help your Microsoft partnership. And if anybody wants to do a deep dive on their own current environment, you do not have to be a Sherweb partner to do this. We take between 30 minutes to an hour. We take a look at your exact portal specifically, walk through a few things, and see if we can help you make some more money or better understand what's going on or start to develop a game plan. And an example, just to share what kind of impact that can have on you, we had a partner of ours who does quite a bit of revenue with 365. They're pushing $1 million now a month, and they didn't realize about a specific checkbox. Well, when we checked that box, that equaled out to be $100,000 worth of incentives per year.
Holy
so
cow.
even those who bill a lot of money and have incentives coming through still sometimes can miss something. So worst case scenario, you're set up as best as we can see it, and we'll let you know that it looks good. But otherwise, hopefully we can help find some money. So I know a lot of you turned off your cameras, but I'm curious who here has already made the transition to NCE. Not all
willingly
at once.
or unwillingly,
Right. Yeah. Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Excellent.
Thumbs up. A few folks that are yes for all but myself. That's funny.
Okay. Wonderful. So just to preface this, what we're going to talk about for incentives right now is only going to apply to anybody that's made the switch to NCE as of December 31st.
And if they haven't made the switch, they can make the switch now in order to reap some of these incentives, right?
100%. Yes, you can absolutely take switches. You can make the transition happen right now. There are as well some promos available, which we'll talk about from Microsoft and from Sherweb. I'll be a little greedy there and share that. But ultimately, you can make the transition. As of December 31st, Microsoft no longer pays incentives for legacy licenses. So what we're going to cover today. All right, with an asterisk, but they no longer pay for the standard SKUs on NCE. So, Alex, I'll give it up to you. So, Alex is our manager for all things Microsoft incentives. He's seen hundreds of partner portals. He's helped us generate extra revenues thanks to seeing incentives. So, Alex, if you can just do a quick overview of what the new changes are high level, and then we'd really love for this to be interactive. We can share slides and walk through it if you all prefer that we do that, but please ask us questions. Alex promised me he'd ask you all to come with your hardest questions for Microsoft. So we've heard a lot, and I'd love to see Alex get stumped on some of these. So
yeah, there's a good challenge.
Yeah. So
that was how he lured me in to say, like, okay, I'm gonna have a firing squad. You're gonna face them, and at one point you're gonna get stumped. It's gonna happen.
There it is.
So really, like, more than happy to answer any questions. Open up your partner center. If there's a section in the partner center you've always been curious about, you don't have to share your screen. I should be able to answer it as well. But otherwise, whenever we first heard about the NCE changes, a little bit like Mr. Farling, we saw it as a bit of a dumpster fire. So when we created the first webinars, that we wanted to do on the subject, we called them fireside chats. And if you understand that it's a dumpster fire, right? You're next to the fire for it. So it was a bit of a subtle play on words on our end for that. But we've had so many partners with so many questions, because whenever it came to the transition to NCE, there was also the Microsoft price increase that came about. And there was also the looming changes to the Microsoft partner network, which now is called the Microsoft Cloud Partner Program. So if you've been out of the game for a couple of years, Alex, you probably don't even know about how gold and silver are no more. They've gone away. Now
Heard the rumor, but other than that, no, I'm lucky not to have to deal with 4,000 Microsoft SKUs and their idea of rebranding every 6 months.
Yeah. I agree with you. I wish I could do the same. Let me see here. So I'm starting to
Ryan
share
says
my
he'll use the
screen.
Microsoft
like
Silver
that.
logo till he dies. That's great.
That's good.
I wouldn't give
good.
it up either. I have a buddy who still brags that he's a MCSE Windows 2000. So he says they moved all my buttons, but all the concepts are still valid. So I'm going to keep talking about it.
So with that in mind, unless you have questions, because again, like I would love to have lots of questions, not even share any slides, not even talk about any of the content that I had prepared last minute, albeit, but still prepared, because it really is about helping partners navigate this. I call it a user hostile environment, which is the opposite of user friendly, and it does change on an almost weekly basis. So again, if you have issues, if you've always been wondering about different places in the partner center, we can help you. We can deep dive on your specific partner center, your business goals, your points, because that's the new system. Which solution designation you should hit. But in this slide here, it is the asterisk that I was talking about for what Nick was saying. So this is the CSP Indirect Reseller Incentives Program. This is the program that governed everything on the legacy platform. Okay, so all licenses that were not on NCE yet. This program, when it comes to all of the main licenses, the standard licenses, has stopped paying incentives as of the end of last year. So your last check coming from Microsoft for anything related to legacy incentives is going to be in February, because whenever you earn in a month, it's always 2 months later that you get that payment. And if you do not have any co-op activities to do, the remainder of your co-op funds will be deposited in your account around February 17th as well.
So I just want to ask a question to the
Yes,
audience.
please.
How many of you guys are or were even getting incentives through the prior programs? Because I know a lot of MSPs, when you talk about this, they don't even know it exists. Don't know it existed previously. Is there anybody here who's not getting incentives at all, who this is a confusing conversation to start with?
Because that's a good point. Maybe what we can do also is speak. All right, 5-6K a year. We could also speak too about what's the minimum kind of to get in there? What's the threshold? When does it make sense? Okay.
We'll do our best. So the difference between saying like all the incentives from the legacy program would have ended versus the little asterisk that we have to put now is that there are certain SKUs that are still not available on NCE yet. So if there is no NCE equivalent, you will continue to receive incentives on the legacy version of that SKU until the NCE version is available. So in 95% of cases, it will mean that all of your incentives will be gone from this program and would all be on the new program. But in certain cases, when you see some zombie earnings come in, that's the reason for that. Other than that, sorry, I'm not really good at.
Right. So Alex, let me ask a question then. So let's say I'm a partner right now. I have some Office 365 that I'm selling. I'm dabbling a bit in Azure, right? And I'm not really sure what I need to do to get started to start receiving incentives. What direction would you point me in?
Okay, well, the first thing you would want to look at is in your partner center, you will want to go to the membership section. And hopefully, yep, great, it loads. And then in the membership offers tab, you will first see your membership status. A lot of you will see the member, and right below it, you will have a subtext that will say legacy silver benefits or legacy gold benefits, which means that you were a silver or a gold partner before the October 1st change. If that is the case, great for you, because that means you will also have a section on the bottom right here that will show a little trophy and a date of your renewal. And you will have, for anyone that has a renewal after October 1st of last year, you will have one more year to renew under the old program. It's the grandfather clause, if you will, under the same conditions. So even if you don't take any certifications, if you don't add a new customer or experience any growth in usage, you will be able to renew one more time under the same conditions. So it's going to be the same 1,600 annual fee for silver, same 4,800 for gold, and the same license benefits that will come, and the same access to the incentives that you were receiving under the old program. The nuance is that as of October of this year, the upcoming October 2023, if you still haven't reached one of the new solutions designations, which is the new equivalent of those silver and gold competencies of old, you will stop receiving the cashbacks. So let's say, for example, your renewal is in August. Well, you'll be able to renew same 1,600, same 25 M365 E3 licenses for free and all that.
And Alex, let's use John's example here. John mentioned that he renewed into silver last week.
So if he renewed into silver last week, so that means his licenses will be good all the way until January of next year. But if by October he hasn't attained one of the 6 solutions designations, the cashbacks will stop. As soon as he attains one of those solutions designations, let's say in December or whatnot, they will resume. But it is important to attain one of those solution designations. Otherwise, you can expect the cashback incentives from Microsoft to stop. On the next renewal for John, in January 2024, if he has attained a solutions designation, he will be able to purchase the solution designation benefits package from Microsoft. So this is the equivalent to the gold membership fee. So again, it's like 4,700, 4,800 a year. So what Nick was talking about making sure it makes sense for people, especially for partners that were at the silver level before, which again had an annual fee of 1,600, and now it's an annual fee of almost $5,000. You want to make sure you have enough volume on the Microsoft side so that it actually pays you more than you put in. And there's 2 kind of break-even points that we can figure out, because the solutions package also gives you a whole bunch of free licenses, right? So if you want to really take advantage of those free licenses and you like the badges and the marketing and everything that comes with the package, $10,000 a month of Microsoft revenue will be your break-even point. Mm-hmm. If you want to make sure, it's okay, I like my gold benefits, I like my silver benefits, I'm not in a rush, then it's more like 15,000 that you'll want to have of Microsoft monthly recurring revenue in order for the solutions designation to make sense, because it's not only the annual fee, there are going to be certifications required for your technicians, and those carry studying time, preparedness, and the fees for the exams as well. So awesome. To make sure that it's a very profitable endeavor, aim for at least 10,000, but at least ideally 15,000 or more of Microsoft recurring revenue.
Is that
yes?
Is that new or existing spend?
Existing.
But now, and also to add on to that, Brian, so it's existing spend that you can have that makes it make sense. But in order to continue to attain different levels of solutions designation, especially in the following years, and we'll talk about this in a second because it's usually something that Alex goes over in the specifics, you have to have a run rate, and the run rate's specific to a certain size of customer as well. Mm-hmm. So yes, like right now, if you were to go into it, that spend existing is what you should kind of maintain to make it worthwhile from a dollars perspective. But if you want to continue to be certified in the future, you need to maintain a certain run rate of net new add or cross sell into your basic clients.
Exactly. Yeah, and I guess the issue is, which Microsoft's going to find out very quickly, is that run rate is very unrealistic for the MSP channel, right? I mean, you're talking, that's like a run rate that maybe a VAR could do, right? It's like, hey, all we're doing is selling licenses. We're not implementing solutions either. Boom. All right, I'll go for that run rate. But when I'm selling to a client and then I got to spend the time with the project, getting them all set up, I don't have time to then sell right away to another client. So what they're really doing is they're squeezing out the middle class MSPs, and it's all the small guys that are going to get the high numbers because of the large amount of tenants, and all the big enterprise guys that can afford to have a VAR department that's just pumping out license sales to keep up with the requirements, right?
I mean,
Well,
there's a
and
lot
it's
of
interesting
truth.
you mentioned
Oh,
that
go
too,
ahead.
because we went to Seattle recently to go meet with Microsoft US, and we spoke to the people behind NCE. Well, at least some of them that were there. It wasn't everybody. And one of the big questions they kept on asking was, why are MSPs so hesitant to deal with us in this space? Like, why is it difficult for us to get in here? And they admitted that they were having a challenge with it. And we specifically mentioned that. We also specifically mentioned that they're trying to sell enterprise style to SMB, which means I'm going to get you the lowest price possible. That doesn't really help you because they dictate the margin on that as well, right? So Microsoft acknowledged that they understand that. They also acknowledge that it's difficult because realistically, how many clients are actually out there that aren't using this? They have some market analysis that suggests there is way more than I expected, but at the same time, it's hard to find that net new. So they're taking the feedback, we've seen them make changes before, we've seen them make rollbacks before, it eventually comes back around. So worst case, they'll draw this back a bit, but I would suspect it's going to just ramp up over time. But what you're saying is absolutely true. They are squeezing out the smaller players, unfortunately.
And so I
Go ahead.
real quick, I just want to mention one more thing. I ran our numbers. We're currently a silver partner. We get about 5 to 6K a year. We use about $500 worth of free licensing per month. And I ran the numbers, and I'm going to go from being positive 6K a year to now being negative 6K a year for having to pay for the free licensing that they gave me and no longer getting incentives. So that's my experience as a 13-person, $2.5 million MSP. Hey, Microsoft, you just changed this. I was getting 6K a year in incentives and I was maintaining silver. Now I can't even maintain anything, and you're costing me 6K a year, right? That's where I'm at.
And where you are right now is where a lot of partners are at first glance. Whenever you look at the program and the requirements, one thing that I want to mention is you have to remember that this is a Microsoft program, and they don't speak like normal humans do. They do have very specific wording on things. So whenever we get to the modern work solution designations, which I presume, the great majority of you will be attaining or trying to attain, since it is the one that fits most MSP's profile, right? You have SMB type customers, you are reselling M365 licenses, potentially offering, some security services or start backup, on your stack, from different providers, not all from Microsoft. And it's your recurring revenue, your bread and butter. When you come to this designation, you'll see, oh, net customer adds, right? So in English, for normal people, right, you're like, oh, wow, I have to add new customers, and I have to add 10 new customers to get the maximum points. But then, like Nick said at the beginning of the call, I actually read the documents. So in here, if we drill down, we find out what do they actually mean by net customer adds. And the first thing that we have to understand is it has to be for eligible customer tenants. So these eligible customer tenants have to be between 11 and 300 paid seats, meaning that if you have a customer with 20 licenses of Business Basic, they will fall into this. If you have a customer with only 8 licenses or 9 licenses of something, unfortunately, they will not count yet, okay? After that, we have to understand what they're looking to do. And the idea is that this eligible customer tenant is using a new Microsoft workload that they hadn't used in the past 12 months. So if I take my same example of this customer, you have 20 licenses of Business Basic, right? They've been on Office 365 for years. They've been using the email, but they're preferring to use Zoom for their calls and their meetings for some odd reason, right? Who uses Zoom, right? And for some reason, today that client, Zoom isn't working, right? So one of their users stumbles onto Teams to create a Teams meeting. Well, since that workload hadn't been used by that end customer in the last 12 months, that's going to generate 2 points for you. If later in that day, that same user sends a Teams message to a colleague saying, wow, Teams is great, that's another workload, that's another 2 points for you. If finally, when they're talking during the chat, they share a file that's going to be saved on SharePoint OneDrive, that's another workload. So that's going to be 6 points from an existing customer that hasn't spent a dime more on Microsoft services. That's going to get you the net customer adds. One thing that a lot of partners have been missing on the points, which is what makes it very discouraging whenever you look at your dashboard and your points are so low with all your customers, is that there's a new requirement now to be able to get your customers to count for you. In the old program with silver and gold, all you had to do was to have the right MPN ID in the portal of your provider. So at Sherweb, you put in your MPN ID in our Cumulus portal, and then all of the transactions that you did, were synchronized with your partner center so that it would count for your competencies like cloud productivity or cloud platform, as well as the incentives. With the new program, although it still counts for the incentives, you don't have to do any more actions for incentives. For those customers to count for points, you have to have an eligible partner association, which is going to be either the CSP tier 1 or tier 2 link when it is a customer that you're billing, or the CPOR, so claiming partner of record, when it's a customer that you're not billing. Because when you're not billing the customer, Microsoft cannot attribute points to you until you have that claim saying, oh, we're the ones who implemented Intune. We're the ones who did Defender for Business, even though we're not the ones billing this customer, because it may be a customer that's on an enterprise agreement or with Microsoft directly or whatnot.
Is any of that data available by the API that we could go start to report on that for our MSPs to say, hey, you've got a client where you're not the correct partner of record and you're missing out on opportunity?
The best way you can do that is whenever here you click on the download, you will see a report of all the customers that are linked to you and the association type. So you'll see CPOR, CSP tier 1 or CSP tier 2 if you're a direct CSP.
But then they have to be able to identify all the ones that are missing, right? They have to.
But I would say, Alex, that might be an interesting conversation for us to talk about, to see if we can help you with that. I think that might be at a disty level, we may be able to help for that.
But quickly would be to compare the list from that download from the list of your customers in the partner center. So you have a customers button in the partner center and it should list all of your customers. That's the reseller relationship, which is now called the CSP link. So as long as you see your customers in the partner center, I'll actually jump to it. As long as the partner center cooperates, as we all know,
this is actually best practice, right? You want to get them registered under your partner center, because especially with GDAP now, you're going to start wanting to access and manage your clients via the partner center, not some random global admin that you're logging in with, right?
Exactly. That's an excellent point, because whenever you're not using this feature and you have multiple texts, you have to use some sort of gymnastics to share credentials, like either through IT glue with the MFA and so forth and so on. And if any breach were to happen, you could be held liable, because it is not best security practices and you have been sharing credentials. But if instead you use the partner center, if you have those customers listed there, right, you can click on any one of them and then do administration on behalf of. So I'm able to go into the M365 admin center of this customer. Hopefully it'll work, right?
Well, it might not, because you're sharing a Lord of the Rings, and I don't think that's I think that might be copyrighted, Alex. That
yeah, but who cares?
While it's loading though, Brian, you mentioned you had a question around enterprise agreements.
You're back on mute.
Good though, so
dollar in the jar.
Moving up market, we're dealing with clients that are qualifying for enterprise agreements, but we are still actively engaging with them to help them get more adoption out of their environment. I'm assuming it's just a cut and dry line. There's no way I can get incentive points for them
can.
because,
Oh,
or you
yes,
can't.
yes, absolutely. This is what I
Okay.
meant by, if it's a customer
Okay.
you're billing, it's the CSP link. You want to add them in your partner center. If
Well,
it's a customer that you,
we're not billing them. They are,
right,
we do
That's
have a
okay. You don't have to be.
CSP.
exactly.
Okay,
So if
okay.
you're not
All right.
billing them, then it is the CPOR. So it is the claiming partner of record that you have to create. And
Okay.
in that claim, you will actually specify Intune, Exchange Online, Azure ADP One, whatever workload that you've done, and they do require a proof of execution. So some kind of statement of work that shows that you actually did that implementation, because again, it's the only way to get credit for something when you're not the billing partner. On the Azure side, it's actually what's called the PAL, so the partner admin link instead that you want to use instead of the claiming partner of record, so that your partner ID is linked to their environment, even though you're not the one billing them. So it finally loaded, right? So we see now we are in the admin center of the Lord of the Rings, but we can see up here in the upper right that I am as my own user from my own company. And if we look at the active users, we'll see that I am not a local user. So I am truly going into this tenant through delegated admin, which means I did not need to have to find the credentials to log in, but my own user obviously is protected by my security with MFA and Azure AD Premium Plan 2. From here, and this is something a lot of your techs are going to like, you can actually flip between your tenants just at a glance. So you can see from one tenant to another what's going on. Please load fast. Thank you. And finally, you also have a button here, the all tenants. So you can actually see from all of the tenants that you have, if there's any advisoring or health issues and all that. So for level 1, level 2 techs, this is usually the dashboard that they'll have in the morning, and then they can be actually proactive with their end customers and figure out problems before they even do it. That's sometimes makes it almost eerie whenever you call the customer, you're saying, oh, we fixed the problem. Like, oh, I hadn't noticed I had a problem yet. But again, this is for the CSP link in order to get points for the modern work solutions designation. Oh, sorry, let me go back here. Then after this one, is there any other questions on that? Thank you so much, Brian, by the way, for your questions. I love it.
Yeah, one more question on the enterprise agreements. You
Yes.
mentioned you link a different way because you're not billing the license, so it doesn't know that you're part of that service. Is that linked to the tenant as a whole, or are you linking for individual like incentive groups, like cloud work? They have all their different names where you can help clients, gain
Business
more
tabs.
adoption. Yeah, is it linked per solution, or is it just linked with the tenant as a whole? Because you mentioned you have to
Per
prove a
solution,
statement of
which
work,
is what we
right?
call it, the workload.
Okay, so it is by workload.
Yes.
And then when you mention statement of work, it's obviously like, hey, even though we aren't billing the licenses for this, so, we do have this statement of work where we're going to help them set this up.
Exactly.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, and in the claiming partner of record form, there is a template for the proof of execution that you can download and fill out. So you don't have to actually create your own and try to make sure you put the commas in the right place and all of that. So this is what I meant here. It's either CSP tier 1, tier 2 whenever you're billing the customer, or CPOR when you're not, which is for enterprise agreements or Microsoft Direct, or as well, like say the educational enrollment solutions, the EES or CASA program, like a big state school or something, you will want to use CPOR as well. So again, hopefully that dispels the myth for the net customers that you have to add new customers each year. So if you're doing like Brian, taking care of your customers in a great way, working with them on projects, enabling all of their services, maximizing the security and productivity from the SKUs that they're getting from Microsoft, you do not have to worry, because although it is true, like you said, right, like bigger partners and all that, they're going to have a much easier time attaining those solutions designation just because of the volume that they have. It's not the active small MSPs that Microsoft is trying to boot out. It's actually the gold partners that are not MSPs that have no business, getting gold benefits and those free licenses, because all they did was have that volume. They have no added value for their end customers, and they're not in a position to take any of the exams because they don't have any techs, they don't do tech support and all of that. So for them, it was just a yearly purchase of 100, 200, 300 M365 E3 licenses for $5,000, and then they would revisit a year later, right? So for
Microsoft's
partners-
ultimately trying to control the market, right? They want to make
Yeah.
sure, like Alex says, that there's value being added to it, but also that it's not a price war, so they don't shoot themselves in the foot that way. And I mean, you saw the price increase they just did, so obviously they wanted to adjust what they consider to be low pricing, but they're really trying to make sure that they're trying to anyways control the market as best they can while not really selling to everybody. So those that just sell at scale and don't add anything into it, we saw that with Azure a while back. They implemented if you don't have the right admin on it, you don't get margin, period. So this is their way to do that with modern work, is what we see anyways.
Yeah, and to get back to the incentives, right? So to receive the incentives, you have to be either active silver or gold legacy competency, from before. So whenever you see legacy silver benefits, you'll still get them, or one of the 6 solutions partner designations. As of October of 2023, it will be only these. There's not going to be an or on this. So that's what we mean, that those cashbacks, if you haven't attained a solution designation, will stop. And to Nick's point, in the old program, it was cloud platform that you needed to have, right, to receive the cashbacks on the Azure consumption. Now with the new program, it's the infrastructure solution designation. So there are 3 solutions designations related to Azure. So there's data and AI, digital and app innovation, and infrastructure, but only infrastructure will pay you incentives starting in October. So if you are, on the fence, which of the 3, because I have 30 points in all 3 of them, I think data and AI is cool because of all the new AI tools that are, all the rage nowadays. But no, you will want to focus on infrastructure first to make sure, for financial purposes first.
I think there's another question, Brian.
Yes, yeah, please.
Yeah, so, I'm kind of torn on this. I mean, I've seen Microsoft make moves that piss people off in the past, and then they make adjustments down the road, right? Fine tune it. And my gut reaction is, I give up. I'm not even going to try, right? But I'm thinking, well, maybe I should at least try to get as much as possible. And if I don't make some sort of minimum on new accounts, maybe down the road, Microsoft might adjust that. I know they aren't going to make an exception just for me, but maybe they might adjust the whole policy. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at, right? We have to put effort into this. And
Well,
if we don't know we're going to reach the finish line, it's like.
Right, no, but I think that's also, thank you again for participating, because you're bringing up a great point. So what I would recommend in that situation would be, the first thing that you want to do is add all of your customers in the partner center. All right. So just to make sure that any customer that you've had a relationship with, you just add them all in the partner center. You wait a full month because the scoring is only refreshed once a month. So you wait a full month for the points to adjust, and then you see where you are. So if you'll notice, right, it's a scale out of 100 points. And you have the minimum is to reach 70 points to attain it. And the other criterion is that you have to have at least 1 point in each of the categories, on top of the 70-point total. Okay. So once you add all of your customers, you wait to see the dust settle. You'll have up to 20 points in here, up to 25 points in here, up to 30 points in here. Let's say you are at 45 points, out of those 2 categories. Then if you'll notice, you can get 10 points and 15 points in the certifications. So if you were to take the certifications at that point, you get the 25 points that are missing, you're at 70. So you'll know that if by adding those customers, if they're getting you enough points, now you make the effort, you take the exams to cross the finish line. If instead you've added all your customers, you're still at 10, 20 points after 4 or 5 months, then yes, you're probably right that, let's not, waste time on this. Let's wait for Microsoft to adjust. And they have already hinted last summer at the Inspire that once the solution designation is the only thing that we can buy, and that the legacy silver benefits have run out for people, that there may be a new middle of the road, like super action pack or action pack plus plus type of option available for partners that have shown customer success and growth. So no requirement at all like the action pack, but some, easier requirements. So it might be something, some adjustments, some fine tuning, like you were talking about earlier, that is going to come down the road.
But we could also share some tips of working the system. So I mean, it's recorded, but technically this isn't against the rules. So so we by looking at how the system works, an example of this is say you're at a point right now where you have most of what it takes, you're missing a certification, but somebody in this network has a tech who has that certification. Well, Microsoft has made it so that you can actually transition a user between customers twice per year, between partner centers twice per year. So an example of that being associating a tech with one partner and then associating a technician that has that same certification with another partner. So there are ways to be able to work within what they deem appropriate on their side to be able to go ahead and get these. So there are some tricks out there that you can use to your benefit as well, which does reduce the investment. You just need to have some friends in the channel, essentially, to be able to do that.
And another way like that would be, especially since we are, in a meeting with a lot of different MSPs, you can actually team up MSPs together. You could merge the partner centers so that you are, two different business locations on the partner center. Each location will have its own MPN ID, its own partner ID, and each location will be able to invite their own customers. It's all going to be segregated, no security risk, no talking between those. But if MSP A has one certification and MSP B has another certification, well, the partner center now shows that both MSPs are getting all of the benefits coming from both certifications. So,
and we've seen this being done as well with multiple, like it doesn't have to be the business with the same name. We've seen different partners from totally different states come together, connect, have everything separated, have the security aspect of it separated as well. I mean, we're relying on Microsoft's environment, right? And so they do have quite a lot that they could do here. But so we had one person in New York, the other person in California. They both tie together. They joined forces because they're part of a peer group together. They have separate bank information. They have separate clients, separate businesses, completely separate. The only thing that's connecting them is this relationship that they have through this this peer group that they're in. And what ends up happening is they're now double in the eyes of Microsoft. They're making their incentives, they're hitting their minimums, they're selling more. Microsoft at the end of the day is still seeing two people make transactions and sell. And we haven't run into any issues with this yet. So I think the largest one we've seen, Alex, how many was that franchise that we did now? There are what, 30 locations that
like closer to 60 now. I think it was 57.
60 different companies merging together. So it's food for thought. Now, will this work forever? We'll see. But right now we've seen it work and we haven't had any issues with Microsoft with that. So
and it's not
there
like
are ways you can work
loophole or anything. It really is like whenever you create that business location, as you can see in mine, I have one in Quebec, Canada, and another one in Florida. And so it could even be an MSP that's in a different country than yours that would count for the certification and the points all together for this. And whenever you are enrolling those locations into the CSP and direct reseller, you will be putting in your tax and bank info of your own location. So again, like you're not trying to fool the system or anything like that. It is a structure. If you have independent contractors working for you, you could create a business location just for that contractor so that anything that they do can be linked back to you. So it really is a time to, kind of conquer and then consolidate, any relationships that you have conversations with the other MSPs, because again, if someone has a like the Azure solution designation for infrastructure, and you have the modern work one, you could combine, and then both of you get the benefits from best of both worlds. It's things like that that you can do.
So, one of the concerns I have too with getting rid of the silver is, there's no silver price point now, right? I think I paid like $1,800 for my silver. It was like a deal based on the license I was getting.
Yeah.
And so, if we can't get up to this, we're basically stuck with an action pack, right?
Mhm.
For
And
the action pack plus,
I don't even know, like, what Microsoft 365 licensing does that even come with? Because right now we're getting all our E3s and even some Teams voice licensing for free with our silver.
Yeah, so you probably had the small mid-market cloud solutions competency. You probably have a 10 business premiums as well.
Yep. Yeah,
Mhm.
25 E3s, 10. So like I might be stuck if I can't pull this off by the time my silver runs out at the end of this year. I might be stuck having to go to an action pack for the licensing,
Yeah,
right?
and the action pack is 5 licenses. So pretty much the silver was
Yeah.
for 25 users. The action pack is for 5 users, but it's similar type of licensing, and it's $475 annually.
All
What
right.
I'd suggest too, Brian, book us offline as well, if you have time, or if you're I'm not sure if you're part of Evolve. We're going to be in Arizona in a few weeks. I think that's what it is. But either way, we can take a look at your specific setup again, regardless of who you're with, if you want, to analyze where you're at, what we could do, how you could potentially build a game plan based on your current state, and then we can also just do a numbers analysis. Currently,
Mhm.
you get this for free. This goes away, it's going to cost you X, right? Here's what your investment would be, because we found that some people just, it doesn't make sense for them to go and invest in the new designation if they don't
Exactly.
increase sales or do certain things. But then, how do you build a plan from there? And is this a situation that you want to be in? So I would recommend it. I mean, if you have the time.
Well, and especially with the EA situation, right? I mean, I just got a quote request to migrate from Meraki MDM to Intune, but we don't sell them the Intune licensing,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So I'm
So
going to get
yes,
a
C4 all the
statement of
way.
work and say, hey, we're doing this work, give us credit for it, right? So those are the things I got to start thinking about now too.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because once you get all those C4s done for all of those EA type customers, even if it's a customer that you finished dealing with 6 months ago, all of this scoring is on a trailing 12-month basis.
Okay.
So you would be able to get points for things that you've done 3, 4, 6, 8 months ago.
Okay.
And then at
Yeah.
that point, it's $1, right? It's do you want to invest this money? And also certifications, outside of the cert cost, which typically most distributors could probably get you some sort of deal on that. There's the time, right? How are you going to incentivize? So we have, that same partner that I mentioned earlier, for those that were there at the time, but for the $100,000, they've been able to incentivize their sales team to do this. It was a strategy that they did, but because they've identified that they were able to average out their overall discount on 365 when everything's said and done to be over 25%. And that's on a normal SKU. The higher SKUs are closer to 30 because of the different programs they stack on the back, and they're doing different sales programs. They're getting that. And for them, they said, you know what, 30% for 365, we've never seen that before. Like this makes sense. So there are ways to make it work, and there are ways to make it work, with your existing clients that you sell into. It's going to take a strategy. It's going to take focus on it. And for what I've seen, a lot of MSPs, there wasn't enough money in 365 to justify putting a lot of extra effort in the back end. So that's why we have Alex, who who's able to help with that. But regardless, like, if you figure it out, it can be pretty significant.
Yeah. And then the final thing that I'll say on this is that this is really just getting a solutions designation is really just being able to play ball. There are lots and lots of other steps afterwards, like getting different specializations, getting into the ESIF programs, getting into the AMP for Azure migrations programs. If you have a EA customers and you are an Azure expert MSP, you can actually get up to 6% back on their Azure consumption on an EA that you're not billing. So there's lots and lots more things. It's just that, you have to be a bit of a self-starter, right? Like Nick said, there's some effort that on your end, but before you put in any effort, talk to us. It's not a one size fits all. We want to see, we want to find the Goldilocks zone for you, how much volume you're going to need to have, how many staff, because let's say, for example, the business application solution designation, if you don't have 5 certified technicians, don't even try, right? But for the modern work one on SMB, one person can get you 20 of the 25 points for certifications, so it's not the same thing for everything. And we really pride ourselves on being able to deliver those consultations that fit your exact needs. And it's never the same recommendation because of that, which is how I'm able to not go completely insane. Because if I were recommending the same thing over and over, I don't think I'd be here anymore.
So one of the issues I do have with Azure is they don't give as high of a margin on it, right? I think I'm getting like 9% or something on Azure versus like the 16 on the other licensing.
Mhm.
So would you see, going after Azure incentives a good way to try to regain some of that profit margin you're not getting with Azure that you are getting on other items?
I'd say yes, and I'd go further than the incentives. So, your disty is going to have their price set because every CSP has the same pricing. If you're direct or indirect, it's all the same. Microsoft gives out this blanket cost, and your distributor figures out how they're going to get that off, right? So Azure's always going to be less than Microsoft because that's just the way that it is from Microsoft. Yes, incentives are going to help you gain that to the point of if you have certain designations as well, you get other incentives. But what we've been doing with our partners specifically as well is we've been rolling out other programs. So there's programs that are called DCO. There's some programs that you can go called ESIF and a few others where you can add on, in some cases, up to an extra 15 points of margin on these deployments. In some cases, it's cash. They're literally just spiffing you to do this. So yes, this is the way to really take advantage of that. And we could do a whole session on Azure as well, if ever y'all are interested in that. But RIs, Azure Hybrid Benefits, these sort of things within other programs that you can tack them into to start getting more incentives on that too. So to answer your question, yes. And then there's a bit more to it, but we could absolutely help you with that.
Yeah, because I imagine if Microsoft's trying to get people to adopt Azure workloads more, that's probably where they're going to put most of their incentives, right?
And Dynamics business apps, you're going to see a lot more come in that, like Power Platform and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
if everything else is equal and you're just looking for a new revenue stream to focus on, Power Platform is the one that Microsoft is in a very, very bull market.
Good to know. Good to know. All right, guys, we're coming up on 4 o'clock. We want to make sure we honor everybody's Friday and make sure we get everybody out of here on East Coast time, because some of these folks have a beer to drink somewhere. Some of you guys on West Coast time, you got a few more trouble tickets to close. But if these guys have some questions still that we didn't get to fit in, do you guys want to throw your contact information in the chat? What's the best way for them to reach out? So Nick's got his info in the chat there. I appreciate you guys coming out. Like this is a topic I admit to being underinformed on. A lot of the workload conversation is something that I didn't really understand. And Nick, you and I will circle back and talk about this, because if there's some value Lifecycle can add just around helping you guys keep track of some of that, we probably want to do that. But it's an interesting conversation, and definitely in my mind got me thinking about what are the other things you could be doing as an MSP to make sure your customers are using the most number of those workloads as possible. And I'm thinking about some of these products that open up teams to your help desk, and open up some of these other products and make sure that we have a partner. I don't know if they're on this call today. They do what they call Teams Tuesday, and they do a training every Tuesday on how to get more out of Microsoft Teams with their partners. But you guys could do that with other products and services as well.
You could even add on your own PBX in there, which is probably going to bring in, a bit more revenue. And now you're turning it into more of a value added Teams experience, and you get, two birds at once, right?
PBX should be a 4-letter word, not a 3-letter word. But if you guys want to take that on, I'm sure there are some partners out there who could help you with that. If you don't know OIT VoIP and want to go talk to those guys, like there are partners out there who will help you tie all that together. But and Sherweb, do you guys have a PBX solution
We
as
do.
well? Okay,
But
there
we
you go.
also have a connector if you have your own, so we can
there you
help you
go.
connect the two together.
Yep. So yeah, if you don't want to get into PBX, find a partner that's good at it and go that route. So all right, with that, guys, we're gonna have to wrap, but I appreciate everybody coming out and hanging out today. If you have questions, by all means, go reach out to Nick, he and the team over at Sherweb.
Want to find out about promotion, right?
Yes, we have a promotion for NCE, but
There you go.
we're not here to sell. So if you want to talk cash,
reach out to Nick
us.
and he'll load your pockets with cash. That's what I heard.
Yes, that's
And
right.
it's recorded,
exactly.
so it
that's it. Yeah.
That's it. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for coming out.
Thank
We'll see you again next Friday, and hopefully we'll see some of you guys on the road soon.
Yes.
Thanks so much for having us. Have a good one.